All right, so Kevin Warsh was confirmed today in the Senate. 51 to 45. I believe he got one Democratic vote, Mr. John Fetterman from the great state of Pennsylvania. So what's Kevin Warsh going to be doing? We welcome back John Carney, ace financial journalist. John, welcome, welcome, welcome. So everybody expects Kevin Warsh to sort of throw himself into a bunch of interest rate cuts. I have my doubts. I think he's smarter than that. And these numbers that come out today and others don't really show it, do they?
No, Kevin's not going to try to cut interest rates the day he gets there. When you have inflation at 3.8%, when you have the underlying inflationary trend is not good. I mean, inflation in this CPI report was much more widespread than it was in the March report. March report, all energy. This report actually had energy leaking, the energy costs leaking out to the rest of the price signals. So he's not going to go in there and say we need to cut. He's going to say when inflation comes down, we can cut. But that could be a benefit because there's a lot to be done outside of interest rates at the Fed. One, the balance sheet. If you have high inflation, shrinking the balance sheet is a good thing to do.
Yes.
So he should be shrinking the balance sheet. And then we've talked about this on the show before, the reform of the institution of the Fed, what the economists are looking at, what the staff is doing, the models they use. This is a great time. So you can't do anything with interest rates right now? Great job. The chairman can focus on setting the Fed right side up instead of upside down, which it's been for years.
He could come in, in his own words, not everyone on the Fed staff is bad, but there are a number of them that have probably been there too long and could use retirement. I could see him pruning the staff quite a bit, maybe even the reserve banks too.
The reserve banks, absolutely. Look, I've talked to people. I don't want to get anybody in trouble here, so I won't get too specific. But I've talked to people at the reserve banks who feel like they could do a much better job if the people above them were let go. You remember that, as you said, not everybody is bad at these Federal Reserve economists. Some of them are quite good, but they have careers and they've been doing what was expected of them. And for a dozen years, a lot of what was expected, maybe 20 years even, what was expected was push the DEI, push the climate change. When you're going to do a study, make sure you study whether environmental justice or equity is being pursued. Setting the message to the staff that this is not the direction that you want things to go on could make a big difference.
You know, journalist Iris Stahl, who's a friend, is running something on his Substack about all the Fed donations to Democrats. It's really quite remarkable. It's something like 90% or more. Now, there may not be enormous donations, but there's almost no one ever gives to Republicans. You might want to look at that. Since Jay Powell made such a fetish about Fed independence, I didn't see him making independent donations or ruling out donations at all. Now, that might have been something interesting.
I actually think there may be some intimidation. Same thing happens in college faculties. You don't want to be the one guy at the regional Fed bank who's giving to the Republican candidate when everybody else is apparently giving to Democrats. So again, if you send the message, hey, either we're not going to do donations, maybe they shouldn't be to preserve independence, or they should say, this is a place where it's okay to be a Republican. And it hasn't been, Larry. Like, a lot of the Fed economists really do feel institutional pressure to definitely, to not be a Republican, but also definitely not be seen as a Trump supporter. That's, just like on college campuses. And that affects actually the entire economics profession. Because remember, a lot of economists either start their carees or have the goal of getting to the Fed at one point. You were at the Fed.
I did it a long time ago.
So if the Fed's culture is bad, the culture of the economics profession also gets corrupted.
Just in the last minute, other stuff, putting interest rates aside, shrinking the balance sheet, maybe selling some bonds, but changing the models. He could start working, and I would think that some of the members of the board would help him to change the model. So lower unemployment doesn't mean higher inflation, which is stupid, or faster growth doesn't mean higher inflation, which is stupid. And the other thing that's stupid is Jay Powell staying on. I mean, it boggles my mind that Jay Powell is staying on. And I go back to my earlier idea. First of all, Jay Powell is not a martyr. And second of all, just give him the worst parking spot in the entire building, which is being all these cost overruns. Or don't even give him a parking spot. I mean, he's taking a vote for a potential Trump reformer away by staying there. I don't know if people understand that. That's important.
And it's unprecedented. Every other Fed chairman, when his chairmanship is ended, leaves the board.
Yeah.
And Powell has said, no, he can't leave because Fed independence is too important. First of all, every other governor should be deeply insulted that they think they're not going to stand up. I actually want Jay Powell to name who he thinks on the board isn't standing up. Does he think it's Philip Jefferson, the vice chairman? Does he think he won't stand up for Fed independence? All of these guys want Fed independence.
Trump should have that Steve Myron seat. I mean, that's anyway,
absolutely. I mean, and I look. Steve Byron's done a great job. Get Powell out of there and let Steve keep the job for a while.
I'm okay with that too, as long as Jay Powell leaves. John Carney, thank you.